So people have been asking me what I think about the new legendary rings that have appeared in our loot tab on the PTR for patch 7.2.5. Down there it is. So there's one of these for each class, and what the legendary ring does, for those who don't already know, you can see there it's got very modest amount of stats on them, not very much at all. In the case of the Paladin one, 320 each of crit, haste and mastery. You can see in terms of the ones I've got equipped, which are a good 35 item levels below, that there's, you know, about 3,000 stats altogether on those ones. Here we're not even going to get 1,000 stats in total. So the stats aren't, it's not a useful stat stick, so we're going to have to get all of our use from the ability. So the ability, of course, gives us a talent. So in the case of a Retribution Paladin, it's actually giving me this talent here, Divine Purpose, which we wouldn't ordinarily take. So it's not a talent you choose, but it is a talent that is built into that ring, as you know, you get to use this. And people have been asking me, you know, is this going to be a good thing? It entirely depends on the intention with this. It's the weekend at the moment. We only just sort of found out about this a couple of days ago. Blizzard haven't said a great deal of it as far as I can tell yet, but I'm assuming there'll be some clarification in the coming week, because it all depends on whether or not this is a proper legendary. Now, what do I mean by that? It's in our legendaries tab. You know, it is legendary. It's got orange writing. But here's the thing. On the PTR, for the purposes of testing things, I can go to this legendary Flascator and I can pick up my legendaries. So if I click it on Ret, all the legendaries, even the crafted legendaries, I can just get from this vendor to try it out if I didn't already have them. But the ring is not there. So it's not being put into the game on the vendors at any rate, but it's here in the loot tab. So that suggests it's probably in the game somewhere. So this means two things. One, we're not likely to get this ring from the random legendary drops like all the others. There's two reasons why we think this is going to come from some form of Order Hall quest campaign. One is, well, it doesn't come from the normal legendary source. As far as we're reading into it, all of this is speculation, but you know what? It's a pretty good educated guess. The other thing, as people have noted, is the name of the ring takes on the title from your particular class. So Paladin, we get the title High Lord when we complete our initial class campaign, and this one is Soul of the High Lord, and it's the same for all the other classes as well. Now, if it's not a normal legendary in terms of how you acquire it, it may also not be a normal legendary in terms of how you equip it. And this is absolutely crucial to whether or not these legendary rings are going to be good. If it counts as a legendary in terms of we're allowed two legendaries and this is one of the two we can equip, it actually doesn't look that good, especially for Retribution Paladins. I'm sort of trying to talk in general terms here, but we all know I'm talking specifically about the Retribution Paladin one. It doesn't actually look that great. Don't get excited about it. Think about it this way. For a start, Divine Purpose is the talent we don't take because Crusade is too powerful anyway. So we're talking about a talent where, although people like the idea of it, it's not a strong talent. Now, of course, we're going to get to combine it with Crusade, with this legendary ring, and that'll add on a lot of useful things as well. During Crusade, we'll inevitably get more spenders to fire off. If you combine it with the legendary cloak, it means that you're going to, especially outside of Crusade and Heroism and those sort of buffs, you're going to be able to maintain the buff for longer periods of time throughout the fight. Because, again, when Divine Purpose procs, that means you've got a free spender to bank there for when you can't get your builders up quickly enough to keep that buff rolling. When sims have been done, and it's not a difficult one to sim this one for the Theory Crafters, because ultimately all that legendary has on it is a few basic stats and a talent which is already baked into Simcraft, so it's quite easy to assign that to it. It doesn't look like a brilliant legendary for us. But here's the thing. If it doesn't count towards the 2 legendary limit, if it's like something that we're going to wear on top of everything else, there are a number of reasons why this could end up being quite useful. First of all, obviously it allows us to wear 2 other legendaries plus this. Even though the stats on it are a load of rubbish, it's quite obvious that using this, having a ring, even with rubbish stats, it's got a socket at least, but with that talent on it, is going to be better than a bog standard ring, if even a, you know, comparable item level. And remember, this Soul of the High Lord here, for whatever reason, it's showing as an item level 940. We know that legendaries are going to be 970 in 7.2.5, so I'm not quite sure why that is, but whatever. The other thing is that this is going to allow us to use, for example, Chain of Thrain and the Legendary Cloak. So we're going to get all that benefit during Crusade, as well as being able to use the Legendary Cloak outside of it in terms of keeping that buff up as well. And the other side is the balancing side of it, because I immediately thought when I looked at this, well, what if some classes are going to get really tasty talents with it? And what if the combination of two talents is really good? Like, for example, you can argue Divine Purpose with Crusade at the same time might be quite decent. What if another class is going to be able to have that combination of talents now that ordinarily you wouldn't be able to have because they're on the same row, that could actually be really powerful? Quite difficult to balance that, unless, of course, Blizzard are expecting us all to have this ring equipped. In other words, they're going to make it relatively straightforward to get, so we'll get it quite soon after 7.2.5 launches. A bit like we got our new artifact traits very soon after 7.2 launched. So if we're expected to get it really quickly after the launch, and everyone is expected to equip it because you couldn't possibly have a combination of gear which would mean you wouldn't want to. If that is true, then Blizzard can balance every class and spec around the fact that we have this ring. That makes it a lot easier from the balancing point of view as well, and will actually make this a positive addition to the game. So, without knowing a great deal, those are my thoughts on it as requested. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Obviously, I will update this as soon as Blizzard do offer a few clarifications, and I'm hoping that would be in the next week or so. It certainly surely would come up when they do their live Q&A just before the patch releases. Then I'll be able to say something a bit more definite. All of this, as I say, is speculation, but I would prefer to call it educated guessing because it's probably true, but we don't know that until it's clarified. So I hope you found it interesting, as always. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share for further content. Don't forget, if you're interested in Retribution Paladins, to check out my Retribution Paladin PvE Guides playlist, if there's anything in there you're interested in. And until next time, I'll see you later.